Hi again, Panther fans, and welcome to the Panther Insider Podcast, driven by Ford. This is Dave Cohen, the radio voice of the Panthers. This latest show, we preview Georgia State baseball with head coach Brad Stromdahl. If you've missed any of our previous podcasts, they're all available on our Apple Archives page. You can access that online at georgiastatesports.com. Again, we're talking Georgia State baseball here on the latest Panther Insider Podcast. Georgia State will open up February 13, 14, and 15. They're going to take on the Privateers of New Orleans, and then we'll play at Jacksonville State on the 17th of February and Mercer on the 18th of February. So that is the schedule right out of the gate for Georgia State baseball. We welcome to the Panther Radio microphones right now head coach Brad Stromdahl. And Coach, great to see you again. And here we are. It's early to mid-February, and we are talking Georgia State baseball, Sun Belt baseball, and college baseball overall. Let's talk a little bit about your program. A year ago, 26-30, 11-19 in the Sun Belt Conference. Just missed the Sun Belt Conference postseason tournament by one game. And I know you guys have been busy in the offseason getting ready here for 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be here with you, Dave, and we're looking forward to really just kind of a culmination of many, many years of work with a brand new stadium and, getting ourselves back on track to where, we're fighting for the top of the conference and going to a regional. And I'm really excited about where we're at and what we've brought in and kind of where our team is right now. I'm actually unbelievably excited to get ourselves going.
All right off the top, let's get it out of the way. The construction on the new baseball stadium on the site of the old Atlanta Fulton County Stadium for a number of years now. It's been talk, it's been discussed. There is actually construction equipment on the site, and is it safe to say that 2026 will be the final season at Panthersville for Georgia State baseball, and that in 2027 we will be playing at this new facility downtown right here on the campus?
Yeah, it's everything is going forward with every little piece of machinery and every ounce of effort that's being put in there. And Charlie and Doug and Patrick and our admin and President Blake and everybody that has been a part of this kind of getting to this moment has been a big, huge part of it. And we're so thankful to be able to be a part of just kind of ushering in a new era of Georgia State baseball. And I think that everybody from alumni from the back in the 80s and the 70s that have really kind of looked forward to a downtown campus environment stadium are finally coming together and getting that. And so I'm looking forward to being able to get out there and play the first game in 27 and just kind of for all the alumni and our previous head coaches, with Coach Frady and Coach Hurst and the people before that. I think that everybody is looking forward to that moment and ushering in the new era. And we got to do our job here. This year is kind of like as a kind of a little stair stepper to that, but I feel good about where we're at, and I think that we'll be out there, and I think it's going to be a beautiful site for Georgia State Panther fans and our students and everybody that's in Summer Hill. It's going to be a fun little environment.
Well, again, the construction is underway, and Georgia State will play there in 2027. As I mentioned, just missed the Sun Belt Conference tournament a season ago, which, I know that you were disappointed with. The season ends, but right away you and your coaching staff, quickly hit the ground running, getting ready for 2026. The transfer portal you and I have talked about and name, image, likeness, dollars, which isn't really NIL, but it's pay for play now. What was the off season like for you, coming off 2025, and what were the objectives right out of the gate when you guys hit the ground running after the season a year ago?
It's a good question. I really feel pretty strongly that we've kind of bounced along where we've been able to identify and bring in talent from whether it's junior college or whether it's a transfer portal, whether it's a high school kid over the last 3 or 4 years. And those kids have gone on to other places. And of no fault of ours or theirs, it's just kind of the business that we're in right now is that it's really difficult to retain kids when they either hit a metric or they perform really well within our conference. They want to go to the ACC, SEC. So we haven't really lost anybody down per se. Everybody that we've lost in the past couple of years has gone up to the SEC or ACC, which is great for them, or the draft. It's kind of left us a little bit in limbo with some retention issues. But, the reason why I'm so excited is that I think that, with the news of the stadium and then the groundbreaking, we've been able to retain most of the kids from last year. I think we lost a couple of seniors who actually graduated, and they've gone on to other places, which is kind of what you're supposed to do. It's kind of like the old way, where you graduate from, you give your 4 years, you graduate, and then you get a chance to play somewhere else. So they're both in the ACC right now, and wish them nothing but the best of luck. But the retention to me is the most important piece of this, and which brings us to kind of like we fell down a little bit towards the end. We had to control of our own destiny at the end of our season last year. It just didn't happen, which is part of baseball and part of life. And so all of those kids return, and that's what I think is the most exciting. And to win in this conference, you need retention, and we've finally, after 3 years, been able to retain our best players. And so, we returned Friday, Saturday, Sunday, potentially Tuesday closer, a number of long relievers on the mound, which I think is the reason why we're able to, go on to the next level, or have the potential to go on to the next level. And then we return a number of guys that can play shortstop. Wills McGinnis, our third base, first baseman, but he'll probably play third base for us, and then a number of other guys in the outfield. And so being able to retain 20 plus guys that we had in meaningful, powerful positions last year, where it wasn't, late inning mop up or, down or up big. The guys that actually contributed throughout the course of the entire year are back. Tyson Benford, Brian Crooms, Cole Roberts, Jake Hembry. I mean, just, having those four guys back, I mean, they all had Friday, Saturday, Sunday experience. And so I'm just really super excited about what this year has been with regard to what previous years have not been, where we've had, new guys come in, really talented kids, but just haven't understood the process and what we're trying to do and, what that all looks like. But all these kids on our team do, and I'm unbelievably excited to be able to go out there with them, and they have something to prove. I mean, they're not real happy about what happened last year, but they were also freshmen and sophomores. And so now we're actually able to get some juniors and seniors into the mix that have experience here. And again, Dave, I'm just really looking forward to first pitch against New Orleans and seeing what these guys can do, because we're hungry, we're ready, and we're ready to make some moves. And I think that we have a chance. And for the most part, everybody's usually pretty nervous about playing Georgia State baseball, and we now have the depth to be able to finally put that the nail in the coffin when we need to.
And you and I will talk about the Sun Belt, but as I've said before, and I've said this numerous times, you look at the Sun Belt Conference, Coach, and of course football is the driver that drives everything. We talk a lot about college basketball, but you look at the Sun Belt, and the Sun Belt really, after football, is really a baseball conference.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Coastal Carolina finished, second in the World Series this year, and I think that they've done an amazing job. But, if you look at their construction of their lineup and their roster last year, it was all 3 and 4 year old kids that had been there within the program for 3 or 4 years. You look at Southern Miss, they are typically a program that is, they hosted regionals the last few years. I don't know exactly the details, but what they do is they retain kids. They have, starters that are Tuesday guys, then become Sunday guys, then become Saturday guys, then become Friday guys and get drafted. And so, retention is what it matters the most in this conference. So you look at Louisiana and Lafayette, they had a down year last year, but they were all transfers. And so you go kind of across the board with who are kind of the powerhouses within college baseball. And, Troy, I mean, you just go down the list. They're good coaches. They're good programs. They have, really good bells and whistles, from stadiums to locations. And ultimately, what matters the most is that we are a P4 conference, RPI-wise. And so I think we just fell out of the P4 the Power 4 last year, but it was only by fractions of a point to the Big 12. And so being able to have the opportunity to have 4 or 5 at-larges with your conference tournament winner puts you in a position to where you can go in there and you can battle day in and day out throughout the conference and give yourself a chance. If you don't reach the conference tournament finals, or you don't win the conference outright, you have a chance to be able to still have a position to be in a regional like James Madison was a couple of years ago. You just kind of go down the list. Everybody's had a chance, and we're excited to put our name in the hat and be able to use what we have done the last 2 or 3 years with retention and being able to build our guys up to put ourselves in a position to win. And now it's up to our guys to go out there and put the stamp on, hey, we're here, we're doing what we're supposed to do. And now that some of the things outside of our control have happened, we're able to say, okay, well, let's move forward and let's be a meaningful part of this conference baseball wise, and let's put a little notch in our feather to be able to take that regional opportunity and run with it.
From the Sun Belt standpoint, when you look at the last 3 years, of course, in 2025, the Sun Belt had 2 teams that made an NCAA regional, but the 2 years prior to that, 2 years and 3 years ago, there were 4 teams, the automatic qualifier, and then you got 3 at-larges. You were talking about retention, and that may be the key word now in college athletics for any sport that we're talking about. And from a retention standpoint, not only from a player standpoint, but as you were telling me off air, you've managed retention with your staff, which is big because a lot of players want to play at programs where they know they can play and have a chance to win, but they also want to play for certain coaches, whether it's you and your entire staff. So retention on the coaching staff is huge as well, and that was more good news for you during the off season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've had really good coaches in and out of here, who have moved on to other places, and just like some of the players that we've had in the past, they've kind of moved up the rankings into, whether it's pro ball or whether it's into ACC, SEC, and we're really happy for them. But the guys that we have right now, Lars Davis, our hitting coach and recruiting coordinator, has been here this is his 5th season, and so being able to have continuity, I think, is a huge piece of that. And then Christian Castori and Michael Leader. Michael Leader had a fortunate opportunity to win a World Series in 2021, and then obviously Lars was able to win a World Series in 2017 with Florida. And so we have the right guys in place, and with Christian, with Michael on the pitching side, and Lars and I on the offensive side, we're able to go in deeper and into the weeds a little bit more to be able to coach differently than we would be able to coach a first-year player or a guy that's coming in for the first year. Being able to work with infielders and outfielders and pitchers that have been here for 2 and 3 years creates an opportunity to be able to really work on specific plays, like a drop glove to to third base with a lefty, being able to get to those things, or have some creative bunt and runs with a runner at second base, and understanding personnel and them understanding the complexity of the offense, and being able to understand why we're doing certain things on the mound, like first and third with a lefty, and we're on defense, and being able to understand why they would push bunt. It's not because you're a lefty or right, it's because the guy on deck, or the guy on deck you don't want to get to, or they're trying to force that hitter to get it down because he can't hit. It's really getting into the weeds of the video, and being able to do certain things that you just can't do. And so being able to have the staff retention is really, really important, as important as retention on the player side. It's so, all of that kind of lines up to be where this is a culmination of, okay, we're finally here. Now what can we do as a staff? And so with some of the kids that we've lost in the past, we've wanted that, but it just hasn't been, and it is what it is in terms of where we're at in college baseball and in college athletics. But I think that we're going to be challenged, and I think our staff sits down and we talk quite frequently about the ability to be able to have this opportunity finally to show how good we are as a staff, and leading the players, and then giving them the autonomy to make decisions on their own, and then to teach them the next steps of, what it would take to play professional baseball. So, again, all of those things are a culmination of years and years of being able to try to get to this point of, retention, age, experience, ability, talent, and then from our coaching staff, okay, we're challenged now to be able to give them the next step, and they're willing and able and ready to be able to take the next step with us because of where they've been and where our program has been, honestly, being able to teach at the highest level. So it's going to be fun.
And within the last year, you did send 2 into the professional ranks, one to the White Sox organization and one to the Yankees organization.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then, those 2 guys are doing really well. And then, we've had a number of draft picks that have not been able to get to campus because they've been drafted and been given enough money to go play professionally. So, we're excited about that, and it's the frustrating part sometimes is that you look back and, you look at some of the guys that have left and they've been drafted and you're like, what could you have done with that? Where could we have been with that? But none of that stuff matters. It's a matter of playing where our feet are right now, and show me what we can do, and it's really fun to be here right now in this moment with the excitement of the future of the stadium, but mostly it's being able to see what we have been able to do in here in 5 years and take this and say Georgia State is a part of, the Sun Belt Conference, but we are real and we can put ourselves in a position to go to a regional and see what happens from that, and there's so many teams that are out there that get hot the last week or 2 weeks, and you saw it last year with UTSA and Murray State and some of the smaller programs that are able to do certain things when they get hot. And I'm excited to be able to hopefully have this conversation with you at the end of May and be like, what, we told you so, and here we are, and let's take this to the nation and basically say, we have a new stadium, we have all of these players, and let's continue this, and how can we continue this journey to super regionals and potentially the World Series.
All right, we're talking Georgia State baseball with head coach Brad Stromdahl here on the latest Panther Insider podcast driven by Ford. And we'll talk more Panther baseball. We'll go a little bit more in-depth on this year's roster and talk a little bit about the schedule a little bit more coming up after this timeout. After these messages from Ford and Center Park Credit Union.
Wherever you go this fall, greatness starts in a Ford SUV. That's because Ford Escape, Explorer, and the spirited Bronco Sport SUVs have the power, cargo space, and smart tech you need for tailgating on game day, camping under the stars, fall festivals, romantic dinner dates, concerts, antiquing, pumpkin picking, weekend getaways, school plays. For great offers on these versatile SUVs, see your local Ford dealer today. Greatness starts here.
Center Park Credit Union, the official financial sponsor of GSU football, is proud to be a part of the Georgia State community and the Panther athletics program. Center Park provides members convenient financial services. In addition to online banking, mobile banking, and 7 Metro Atlanta branches, Center Park members have access to 5,000 co-op shared branches and 75,000 surcharge-free ATMs nationwide. To find a location near you, visit online at centerpark.org/contact, and that's park with a C. Not a member? Join today at centerpark.org. At Center Park, we help our members flourish.
Ranked alongside MIT and Stanford as one of the most innovative institutions in the country, Georgia State University is leading change in higher education. Few institutions have come so far so fast. We've proven that students from all backgrounds can succeed at the same level. We're changing the way our students are learning, helping them graduate faster, and save millions on the pathway to their degrees. It's no wonder the Washington Post called us a hotbed of growth and innovation. Think you know Georgia State? Think again.
We're back in the Panther Insider podcast driven by Ford. We're talking Georgia State baseball with head coach Brad Stromdahl. And coach, as you mentioned, retention, one of the big words now, the catchphrase words in college athletics and for you for college baseball as you get ready here for the 2026 season. You got a number of returning players, which is nice. Retention is a word that works for you this year. But talk about, let's break it down roster-wise, and we'll start out with your, because everybody talks pitching, with your expected rotation this year. You got some guys here who've thrown some innings, the Tyson Benfords, the Cole Roberts, Brian Crooms, some, a little bit with Jake Hembry.
Yeah, no, those four guys are here, and I think that there's going to be a combination of figuring out who fits best on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Tuesday going in. I think that we open our season with New Orleans, and then we have a double midweek, and so partially that's on purpose, just because I know where we are within our pitching staff, and we just need to figure out who needs to go where and who can do it, and get those guys all of the innings that they possibly can go. Figure out some of the young guys, figure out some of the transfers, and kind of get them their feet wet within college baseball, our program, and then kind of figure out what happens after that. So a 5-game set in the first week is really important to us, but I think that Tyson, Brian Crooms, Cole Roberts, and Jake Hembry are going to lead the way, and then there's a number of guys that come on from the backside and will have their moments, long relief, try to figure out pitch counts, and a lot of that stuff early. It's February, and probably we'll be at a 60 to 70 pitch count with most of our guys, and so we have about 10 or 12 guys built up to do that, and so being able to go out there and get in some trouble, being able to get out of their own trouble, being able to put up zeros, I think is really important. And, I think that those four guys that we forementioned are, the guys that are able to put the ball in the zone the most with multiple pitches and command glove side fastball. So I think that those guys are going to put us out to a good place, and then, really kind of going into the depths of some of our long relief. We have Jackson Duncans, who's a transfer. We have Michael Caruso, who's a transfer. Josh Evans, who's a transfer from Georgia Tech. I think that those guys are going to be able to be right behind, the top four, nipping at their heels a little bit, and I'm excited to see what they can do.
Is Cole Roberts, who's a transfer from UNLV, prior to last season? We saw a lot of Cole Roberts last year. I know it may be too early to say. Is he the type of guy who's a Friday night guy for you when we get to Sunbelt play?
Yeah, I think he is, for sure. But I think that those other guys have also made a little bit of a run at it. And, kind of when we talk about figuring out where guys fit, Cole's the most competitive guy on our team, I think, that in every aspect. And I think we have some really competitive guys, but he kind of puts himself up there as one of the guys who is absolutely going to refuse to lose. And he, we've kind of run it around with him where he pitches on Sundays, and I think that every day is important, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but, to be able to, throw Benford, Crooms, or Hembry Friday and Saturday, and then be able to throw Cole Roberts on Sunday, it leads you to be able to win on Sundays. And then, that is a shift day where you go you go from 2 wins to 3 wins. You go from 1-1 to 2-1. You go from 1-1 to 1-2. I think that every win in the conference is so vitally important because of what it means at the end of the year. That being able to have 2 or 3 really good pitchers that could potentially pitch on Friday and Saturday, and then being able to put your Friday night guy, who was last year's Friday night guy, on Sunday. I mean, it just really puts you in a position to be able to win a lot of baseball games. And, as you get upwards of 17 and 18 and 19 wins within the conference, now you're talking about finishing in the top 1, 2, or 3, and really setting yourself up for, a run in the tournament, and then, hopefully an at-large bid. And so, everything is pretty strategic with regard to how you roll guys out, but ultimately you have to win on Fridays. And so, if that's the case, we know Cole can win on Fridays, but I think that we have a number of other guys who are actually able to do that as well, and it gives us the freedom and flexibility to have an opportunity to really capitalize on not throwing somebody with a little bit less experience on those days on Sunday, to be able to win those days and, finish your weekend on a high note.
All right, so that's a little bit about your pitching staff. One of your starting catchers a year ago is now at North Carolina, along with one of your starting left fielder. They're both Tar Heels. So right now you've got penned in behind the plate Lucas Grantham, Hunter Carlson. Tell me about those two guys.
Yeah, I think that, Lucas is a transfer from Wofford. played sparingly a little bit, but really commands the zone in terms of being able to be on a good relationship with the pitcher, being able to frame, being able to block, doing all those things. And then Hunter is, a transfer from Wichita State, did not have a ton of looks out there, so he's a sophomore, but he really probably hit in the middle of our order, and I think he can also play first. And with Cole Griffith is also a guy that we returned from last year who was behind the plate, and he's probably going to go back and forth between first base, DH, and catcher. So from the catching standpoint, we're set right now. You're never ever set at catcher just because it's such a tough position to play. Fuller Moorish is another catcher that we have coming in as a freshman, and he's really done a good job back there. And so I'm really happy with where Lucas, Cole, and Hunter have been leadership wise, and so it's kind of a matter of who's going to hit the most right away and kind of where they fit into the lineup and all that. So I'm excited about the four of those guys being there, and I think that we have the depth there to be able to give guys the rest and to have the command of the leadership within the zone of catching and blocking and throwing, and I think we're in a good place there right now.
All right, again, we're talking Georgia State baseball here in the second half of our Panther Insider podcast. Brad Stromdahl, you got a number of names over at first, but some recognizable names, familiar names in the rest of your infield, at least that are penciled in as starters. Nick Garagazzo at second, Carter Bailey at short, and Wills McGinnis, who saw quite a bit of time at first a year ago. He's right now penned or penciled in over at third. And I know that, obviously there'll be changes throughout the year, and you play in 56 games, so it's not going to look the same every single night. But you got some solid names on your infield right now.
Yeah, we're excited. Again, it kind of goes back to the first segment to where we talked about guys coming back with experience. I mean, I think Carter was in and out of the lineup the entire season, but for the most part started more games than he didn't. I would probably say he played in 50-plus games. Will's played every game as a freshman, as a true freshman last year, and was an all-conference nominee selection. Nick Garagazzo kind of was in and out, but really has matured over the course of his last the fall and kind of the end of the spring last year. I'm really excited to see what he can do. And so when he returned three of the four guys on the infield that have a lot of starts plus behind them in their belts, and then Austin Sellers is right there. He can play second base, he can play first base, he can play shortstop. There's a lot of different moving parts that we can have within our infield, and I don't want to sell him short or any of the other guys that we have coming back, because I think that anybody at any point in time can start for us, and then if you have a good weekend, that can bleed into the next weekend and just continue on down the path. And so the creativity and the flexibility that we have with the returners, again, is why it brings a little bit of peace and solitude to what the expectations are, at least going into the first weekend. And then that first week of playing 5 games in 7 days, it's we'll know a lot about where they're at, because once you get hit in the mouth, you never know what's going to happen. And so we're looking forward to being able to go out there and play, put our best foot forward, and then whatever adjustments we need to make, we will, and whatever adjustments we don't need to make, we won't. And so it's fun to be able to have some old guys that you can look out at and say, hey, they already know what our signs are and which way to move, and they kind of have that understanding of where we're going as a coaching staff and what we're trying to do defensively, and it's exciting to be a part of.
Some familiar names that are penciled into the outfield, guys that we have seen the last season, couple of seasons. Jay Williams, John Beverly, one of the new names, Adam Haber.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's exciting. We just kind of repeating the same thing as the last, the starting pitching and the infield. We're able to bring guys back. Cooper Milford's out there as well. He's a little bit dinged up at the moment. John Beverly, we know what he can do, and he's gotten a lot better from his freshman year. I mean, freshman year, you ride the wave of I'm really good, and then I really, really suck, and then I'm good again, and it's just that wave becomes a little bit less big as you grow older. But, Adam Haber's another actually transfer from Wofford with Lucas Grantham. And so he's one of those super seniors that, the reason why he had to leave is because he didn't, they don't have grad school there at Wofford. And so he wanted to come to grad school and had 1 year left under one of the NCAA rule changes that, who knows which one it was. But, he's able to go out there and I think be able to, lead off for us. He's a left-handed hitter. Maybe he'll hit 2-hole. I'm not exactly sure where that kind of falls into, but, he's a guy that's going to be able to get on base. And, as we kind of talk about the defense, the offense kind of rolls into play as well, where, the last few years we've led or finished second in offense, team offense throughout the course of our conference. Maybe the last 5 or 6 years, we've always been unbelievably offensive, and it's a tip your cap to Lars and been able to do a lot of things home run wise, double wise, but I think our team looks a little bit different this year when it comes to that because we put a little bit more emphasis, a little bit more scholarship dollars into the pitching side of things, where now the offensive side is not a big, huge power hitter, from top to bottom, where we just have guys that can put the ball in play. We're much more athletic in terms of being able to steal bases. I think our defense is going to be I think that we can, talk about having a mid-970s defensive, fielding percentage and stuff like that changes the way and the dynamic that you are as a team. And so, now that the pitching is a little bit more astute, you're able to have a little bit of a better defense because you don't have to try to score 7 to 9 runs a game to be able to win. Now, we can, hopefully pitch at a little bit of a less of an ERA, which also means that you're giving up less runs. Your defense is a little bit better. You may not score as many runs, but you're going to find more different ways to score runs, and that's hit and run. That's bunting more. It's putting the ball in play. My big thing is this year with the dynamic shift in the offense is like I want to have less strikeouts. We cannot strike out with runners at second and third, or runners at third, runners in scoring position with less than 2 outs. We have to put the ball in play, and it's kind of goes back to that emphasis where if we won last year, we were at like a 87% clip where if we hit a home run, we would win that game. And I think that this team looks a little bit different, but that difference is definitely going to win. You look at Coastal, you look at Southern Miss, you look at Troy, you look at some of the ones that have been perennial, teams that are in the regional. You look at James Madison 2 years ago. It's all about pitching. And so I'm leaning on those pitching guys and those guys that are returning to be able to, take that step to be able to put us in a position where we go and we trust them with it. And so that's the shift in the offense, and that's the shift in the defense that we've really made, is that it all goes back to pitching and putting the ball in the zone and putting up zeros and dancing after the game because we won.
All right, again, Georgia State will open up with the Privateers of New Orleans February 13, 14, and 15 out at the ballpark at Panthersville. Again, this will be the final season of Georgia State baseball out at Panthersville. They hopefully will be in the new stadium downtown when we get to the 2027 season. But as always, want to thank head coach Brad Stromdahl for joining us. He's built the culture of Georgia State baseball to what it is now, and the Panthers continuing to play pretty good baseball, just build the program, and look forward to getting in the new stadium next year. But in the meantime, you got a full season out there at Panthersville, and I know you'll savor those games out at Panthersville this year a little bit more. It's been the home to Georgia State baseball pretty much forever.
Absolutely. We're going to have a great time out there this year, and I'm it will be tough to leave that place a little bit because it really breeds some grit and some hard-nosed players and guys that have to deal with adversity a little bit, but we're also very much looking forward to getting to the new stadium and being downtown and being a part of the Summerhill community and being right here where I have to walk across the street as opposed to get in my car. So, but thanks, Dave, for everything, and hopefully we can get everybody out there to watch us win some games this season.
All right, again, you can follow Georgia State baseball in person at the ballpark at Panthersville. You can follow them online as well at georgiastatesports.com. I want to thank Brad Stromdahl, Georgia State's head baseball coach, joining us here on the Panther Insider Podcast. Don't forget, Panther fans, We're back talking Georgia State athletics on the next Panther Insider podcast driven by Ford. This is Dave Cohen saying thanks for listening. We'll see you at the GSU Convocation Center, Center Park Stadium, or the ballpark at Panthersville. And as always, go Panthers!